Here.
Councilmember Gilchrist.
Here.
Councilmember Hudson.
Here.
Vice Mayor Betticavoli.
Here.
And Mayor Branscombe.
Yes, ma'am. Stand and join in the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com.
Street repaving and pothole repairs, emergency preparedness, and for general government use to continue an existing voter-approved 1-cent sales tax until ended by voters, providing an estimated $3.9 million a year with independent audits and oversight committee, and all money locally controlled, be adopted. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. City Attorney, anything to report out of closed session?
Mr. Mayor, there is nothing to report.
Thank you. Do we have a Mr. Jim Carpenter here? Please come forward and share with us. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. I'd like the opportunity to propose a little bit, there's a little bit better, a little bit an opportunity to expand the Adopt a Park program. We are currently working with Elevation Life. It's a group out of Sacramento, South Sacramento. They operate in the Bowling Green Park in South Sac, and they run a youth basketball league. And we would like to bring that style of opportunity to the park. We did a test on June 11th, and our student ministry team and our city impact team, Joe is here, Josh is also here. We did a little taste test, and we had a 4-man 3-on-3 tournament. And the exciting thing that happened was, once the kids got into the park, and if you've been by there, you've seen the basketball courts freshened up, painted, it all looks good. That's got a lot of attention to the neighborhoods. And once the people got there, then the neighborhood started coming over, kids started coming over saying, hey, what are you doing? What is this? And they were able to say, hey, we're having a 3-on-3 basketball league, and the park began to fill up with people. And that has really been the heartbeat of Adopt a Park from the onset, was to get cleaned up, work with you guys, which we thank you very much for that opportunity for letting us do that. That inertia, and that has begun to continue to progress. Now, if we are allowed to bring a basketball tournament, summer league, run around 8 weeks, that's the model that we use in Sacramento. If we ran that probably from July to the end of August, the goal is to fill the parks with people again and clean it up, and now creating the activity. Now, you say, why basketball? Well, the slogan we use in Sacramento is, it's bigger than basketball, and it's about the people. Basketball brings the families, brings the people to watch, and then along with that, we would do corporate sponsorship for jerseys, basketballs, and there's giveaways. We did a barbecue the other night, fed people, and just created back when we were little and we used to spend a lot of times in the parks, it was bringing that stuff back again. And so that's what I'm here to address you with and ask for the permission. If we could bring to motor park, and the Twin Cities Rescue Mission adopted that. They've done a fantastic job of cleaning it all up. And it is wonderful. It looks good. The people are coming across and saying, what are you guys doing? Who are you? Thank you very much. But really, this would give us an opportunity to fill the parks again. And so that's what I'm coming to appeal and ask for permission to bring that type of a program. The Elevate Life group that have been doing it around 6 years now in Sacramento, they will come up and send a 6-man team to help us get it generated if we have the permission and cooperation with the city.
I walk that area all the time, and I might not be paying attention. There's a court and hoops there.
Yes.
One of the great things about basketball is once you got that, you have the minimal amount of equipment required. One ball.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and suit everybody up with tennis shoes, and you're ready to go.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, we need. He's asking for permission. I don't think that's an action item tonight. But
there is no permission required from council to do this. I believe you've already filed for the correct event permits, and that is all that's required. But I do appreciate you coming in and talking to us about this. I think it is a super opportunity to get the community involved, the neighbors involved. And I will say, I have heard a lot of folks say how much they're doing for the community. But your organization and the organizations that are represented here in those pews back there are organizations that truly do something for the community. So thank you.
That's a double thank you to all of you, because that Adopt a Park is working, and it's going to continue to grow and grow. And I believe that we'll see more people getting on board as you see this thing build to where we can really work together in the city. So thank you guys thank you all. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, and that's such a lovely park. I'm old enough, I can remember when there were railroad tracks, mini rail tracks
there were,
around the park, and little kids like I was way back then, this was early 50s, could get on and ride.
I heard the stories about that, Chris. That was before my time, but yeah, I heard the story about the railroad tracks.
They're true.
Okay.
Bless you all for being involved in this.
Thank you very much.
Thumbs up.
Thank you.
You bet. Let's see, the next presentation we have, Brenda Stranix.
Good evening. He's
I'm
much
so
taller
happy to see
than
you,
me.
and welcome.
Is it on? Yeah. Great. Thank you. We're going to pull up a little PowerPoint here. Thank you for allowing me to visit with you all this evening. Wanted to just brief you on the facade program that we developed a couple years ago through the ARPA funding that the city received as a response to COVID and some of the challenges there. So as a reminder, you all put up $100,000 the first year and then a second $100,000 in this current fiscal year that we're just wrapping up. So I put together a PowerPoint to show you a few of the projects that were that have been developed and how the money has been used, what is left of the money, and if there's any thought that the council may want to put more money into a program similar to this, we're happy to help you administer that in the future. Go ahead, Nicole. So if you'll recall, the first $100,000, there were three components to the program. There was a loan forgiveness program. The city had put up some funding, about $75,000 in the thick of COVID, the early stages of the COVID shutdown, to allow businesses to borrow money. There were a number of businesses that still had loan balances at the time that we received money, and the thought was if they were able to, we would go ahead and pay the loans off using a portion of the money. So we did pay off one loan. That was the only one that was eligible. The customer had already, the original loan was $6,000. Customer had repaid $3,000 at the time of the forgiveness, and we actually paid off the balance of that $3,000 with the ARPA money. Next slide. The other, one other component of the program was a digital asset workshop series We heard a lot from the local businesses that they didn't understand social media marketing. Many of them didn't even have a web presence of any sort, whether it be Facebook or a website. So we contracted with a local contractor here that offers those kinds of services. 6 businesses completed the workshop series, and the investment from the ARPA funds for that portion was $13,000. So then we're going to get into the exterior improvements, which is really what makes me pretty happy. We had a number of businesses, and I'm going to go through some before and afters, but 317, 323 3rd Street is one block of businesses. It's where Toodles and the bakery is now. We were able to paint the exterior and put up a new wrought iron fence. Next slide, please. So that was the former exterior shot, and that's how it looks today. And then that was the former fence around the backside, and that's the fence today. So markedly made some pretty great improvements to that in particular property. That back fence area you can see, you all know, you can see from the park there. So it really made a nice difference in that maiden alley or maiden lane. And then 403 5th Street, we installed an entrance door and replaced all the front glass and the framing. Total project was $11,229, and the Marysville investment was a full $10,000, which was the maximum grant. So that's the before, and this is the after. One thing that I'm seeing with a lot of these projects, and I think you'll see it as we go through them, not only did they fix things that they needed to fix. In particular, this door was really a hazard. It slammed really hard, and it wasn't well aligned, and it was a real problem for the business owner. But they've developed nicer signage. They've really cleaned up even their windows, and things have made a terrific difference in these. Next one. 621 B Street, repaired siding, trim, handrails, decking, door frames, and painted the entire exterior. Total projects was $12,000 and some change. We put $10,000 into it. So that's the before. You're all familiar with the building on B, and that's the after. Really made a big difference. They also had some structural issues on the sidewalk from a tree that had raised the roots of the tree had raised the sidewalk. They repaired that as well. So, there's other components that are happening alongside of just these initial projects. So that's exciting. 502D, replaced windows and frames. Project was about $92.79. So that's the Goldfield Realty office. The paint was really faded, especially the shutters around the windows. But, they get dirt, it starts peeling and that kind of thing. And so now it's nice and fresh and clean on that building as well. Makes a complete difference, in my opinion, just between the two. And then 704 5th Street, replaced all the windows, frames, and front door. Project was a little over $10,000. So here again, you can see that this is the before shot, and you'll see in the next shot that the business manager or owner decided to really clean up the signage on that building, which I think there could still be some work on this one, but I think it makes a world of difference when you take off all that big splash of signage on windows and things. So much improved. 226, brickwork on the cinder block wall. This building is right across the street here. Project cost was $97.50. And so that was the before. It just had a painted section on the lower brick. I'm anxious. Councilman Gilchrist drew some design elements into it, and hopefully they will be putting in some really cool awnings and other things that are going to go on this property as well. So I think the store owner, Zach, he really wanted to look more like the rest of Marysville. So the brick piece was important to him to get some continuity between the rest of the city. 320, we had brick veneer over the entire front of the building face. removed a tattered window awning that obscured the street side windows. Total project cost was $18,000, and we were able to put $10,000 into it. So that's the before. Old sign hanging up there that was not useful. The awning was really obstructed the windows. I don't know at the time, while it was hanging there, I don't know that many of us really noticed that, but when you see the after, look at how clean that looks. It looks sharp and modern, and it's just a really neat transition. Just removing the awning really helped, and that old sign, of course. And again, they did their signage in the window very, very delicately, classy. I think it made a complete difference in that one. 412, 414 4th, they had a broken glass, and then they replaced a fabric on the awning. They only needed a little bit of money, $3,100, and so that's what they used. You can see the old awning. It was rotted and looks like moldy. And then you can see the plywood in the picture on the left. That's the window that's behind the plywood. So it was completely shattered out. And that's how it looks today. So the new awning, the new glass, that transformed that little storefront. 316 D Street, they are in the process of completing a major renovation. Our grant helped them buy and replace 23 windows on the property. That alone was $11,000. We're anxious to see the further improvements, but the 23 windows is going to make a difference as well. So you're familiar with the building, and you can see the framework around the new windows, and those new windows were installed. 301C, paint exterior, recover awning, and replace the 3rd Street windows. Total project cost on that one was almost $20,000. So you're familiar with the Wood Butcher. That was the before, and this is the after. It makes a world of difference, even just with new window frames and things like that, to clean up a property. 413 6th Street, paint exterior and install a new sign. The project cost on this one was a little over $26,000. So there's the front of that. And there it is now. We all know that has turned out beautifully. 316D, new door and window glass, about $9,700. This one, it's unfortunate. You can go ahead in advance. Unfortunately, they had to use the grant money to repair some vandalism. Not what you all intended for the money, but it certainly allowed this business owner to have the ability to go ahead and replace those damaged pieces. That's the new door and the new glass on the side there. That was the saddest one for me because she didn't get to do something special, right? She had to make repairs, emergency repairs. 107 C Street, brick veneer on the front exterior and paint, about $9,800. So that's the before picture. It's the building with the blue there. And that's how it looks today, which I think is markedly better. It looks beautiful. So in summary, 19 businesses have been assisted through the program to date. We've spent about $136,000 out of the grant funds. The total investment on just those projects alone was about $160,000. So to me, it shows that, some of those folks really wanted to take advantage of this and do more than just a minimum of $10,000. I currently have applications for 9 projects. They're in varying stages of design and development. If they all get a $10,000 portion, that would be $90,000. Current balance, though, in that account is $63,000. So at some point, as these final 9 projects develop, I'll have to make a decision at some point that some will not get fully funded, or make sure these folks know that we're running out of money. So that is the extent of my presentation. I just wanted to show y'all what's been going on, and that the money that you put up is helping these businesses and changing the landscape in the community.
if I may, the cumulative effect.
What's that?
Here you have a city who, well, a lot of cities have gone through difficult times, but the individual effect and the cumulative effect is meaningful.
It really is. And when you see it in order, like that, it's like, wow, we did something here. We really did something.
It makes the area much more attractive to customers, to people who might want to go into business. Fabulous. And your organization is overseeing and managing this project?
We are, yep. We have managed the program from beginning to end. We'll continue to manage. If you all decide that you want to try to figure out how to help another, 10 or so businesses, we're happy to manage it all the way through.
We have budgeted another $100,000 of projects or of money for projects for coming year's budget. So should be able to cover the shortfall plus some more projects as we.
And we do have a waiting list on top of those 9 applications that I already have.
Yep.
Any other comments, questions?
Chair? So the original was through ARPA, correct? The original funding was through ARPA, which I remember when we decided to do that years ago in the midst of COVID. And so now we're doing this $100,000 out of the general fund, correct? That's coming?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's what I want to know. Thank you. I'm all for it, by the way.
Great.
Thank you.
Anything else?
To the chair.
Sir.
Great job. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for your help on a lot of them.
I'll add a thank you. Thank you very much, Brenda.
Thank you.
Anytime we see you, we're happy.
Always available for whatever y'all need.
Okay, we're through the presentations. Both of them were fun. We now move to the Community Consent Calendar Forum. And this is the stage where anyone wishing to address the council concerning consent calendar items or on matters not already on the agenda are invited to make oral comments of up to 3 minutes. And if you're here, you can get a speaker's card from the city clerk and you'll be called in order. If you're online, raise your hand via Zoom and you'll be recognized in order. You need to remember that the council is not permitted to undertake any action or discussion on any item not appearing on the posted agenda. If you have any documentation you want to share with the council, it's City Clerk, 526 East Street, Marysville, 95901. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers?
Thank you, Mayor. Our first speaker will be Michael Lee.
Welcome. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Karen Liggett.
Thank you, ma'am. Your time's up. Being in the public eye sometimes means being criticized unfairly. Madam Clerk.
Our final speaker will be Serafin Alvarez.
Sir, welcome.
Good evening. Serafin Alvarez here, CEO of Paragon Collegiate Academy.
Oh, yes.
TK through 8th grade charter school here in Marysville. I say TK because it's a new program for us. I wanted to come in here and not take too much of your time, but just to share with you a few updates and things about our opinion of the city of Marysville. We closed another academic year, graduated 25 8th graders that are going off to our surrounding local high schools. We did issue 4 $1,000 scholarships for our kids that are interested in going into higher education / vocational school after high school. So those are excited. A lot of those, the funds come from our fireworks fundraiser that we usually have over there by Farmers Market. We're excited that we're always able to offer that. But the main reason I wanted to come up here is to share with you that, I think schools, neighborhoods need good schools, and good schools need a good city. And I wanted to just come up here and tell you from the perspective of the CEO of Paragon. Academy, just wanted to share how much we feel that Paragon is within a city that is a very, very strong and healthy city that we are very proud that we reside in. I've been a local resident for 53 years now, so I've seen Marysville from a toddler to a teenager, young man. Say that in the past maybe 6 years, here at the city council here, one with our mayor and the leadership of the city council, the police department. least. But every time we are in need of support, we always they always respond to us very promptly, and they always satisfy our needs. Unfortunately, sometimes I feel bad because I open up that little envelope and it's like, oh gosh, a false alarm on the alarms, and they have. They were awesome in getting our new system approved. They made time for us this year and made it very clear if there was an emergency with anyways, a lot of good energy, and just wanted to share with you guys that I think it starts with good leadership, awesome head departments there, and then and I think the city is starting to show it. A lot of good asphalts there. I think I would not bet $1 anymore that if I took a glass of milk and a banana, it might not be a milkshake by the time I cross Marysville. So kudos to everybody and all your guys' effort. And then if it's appropriate, maybe a little plug for Measure C. I think a lot of those funds helped in a lot of the new energy. Sometimes I think on this side, when these measures are being passed, are we really going to use the money wisely, so forth? Well, I can tell you that from CEO from a school and what we're seeing, what I would imagine that some of those funds are being used for some of these things that we're noticing that I think gives us the definition that we think we're in an awesome city. I hope that it does not. I think it's sunsetting, I think, in 26 or something like that. So hopefully it continues, because I think you guys are using the money wisely, where we can see from the school perspective is making an impact for us. So anyways, I know I apologize too long here, but thank you very much for everything you guys do.
No one was going to cut you off.
So anyways, thank you, because we're feeling it, and it's making it us a little bit easier to. One of our goals here at Paragon is to be the next Stanford, Berkeley of the elementary world here. Got a long ways to go still, but that's our goal. And I think partnering with an awesome city like Marysville, I think it'll get us to that goal a little bit faster. Thank you.
Thank you. Top that. Madam Clerk.
No further speakers, Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, now we move to the consent calendar. All matters on the consent agenda are considered routine and are therefore approved by one motion, unless a council member or the city manager first requests that a matter be removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion and action. What is the will of the council?
Make a motion to approve.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any questions? Noting none, all in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. Okay. Thank you, Mayor. We now move to the discussion and action calendar. And here each matter is separately discussed and acted on. Members of the public may speak on any of these items for up to 3 minutes. Again, if you'd like to comment and you're here, speaker's card. If you're online, raise your hand and you'll be recognized in order. And if you have any documentation you want to share, send it to City Clerk, 526 East Street, Marysville, 95901. And the first matter is item number 5 on the agenda. And I'll read it. Approving of a reimbursement agreement for train horn quiet zone services with Union Pacific Railroad Company. And the recommendation, pass a motion to authorize the city manager to execute a reimbursement agreement with Union Pacific Railroad Company in the amount of $30,000 to pay for Union Pacific's consultant for engineering services related to establishing a train horn quiet zone. And Mr. Vincenzo Crazzo, Public Works Director, please take it away.
Before Mr. Carrazza gets started, I just wanted to interject something. When I first interviewed here for the position for the city of Marysville, I did some research on the council goals, and quiet zone was on there. And so there's been a lot of discussion on quiet zones even before my time. Mr. Carrazza has researched the topic and has made the effort to figure out our first step in actually implementing a quiet zone. So I am glad to see we're moving forward on it, and Vincenzo will give significantly more detail, but we're heading in the right direction.
And if I could quickly add, I see Stephanie McKenzie in the gallery, and I know Stephanie looked into this during her time on the council. Have you met Stephanie, Vincenzo?
Oh yes.
Good.
Yes. So, Mr. Mayor, you kind of I saw her too, and I'm glad you actually credited her. But as the city manager mentioned in the research, I did see back then Councilor McKenzie writing as a priority the train horn quiet zone. But yes, a shout out to your efforts in getting this moving. So, good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. Again, Vincenzo Carrazza, Public Works Director. The item before you is a motion authorizing the city manager to pay Union Pacific's consultant roughly $30,000 for an initial diagnostic study that's necessary to establish a train horn quiet zone. As you know, Marysville has two train lines that run north-south through the city, one on our western side and the other right along A Street. The train routinely doesn't blast the horn on the western rail because it doesn't have any grade crossings. While the central line, the one on A Street, has 3 grade crossings. They're at 10th Street, 7th Street, and 6th Street, and they are generous with their horns. As you may have heard during Mr. Carpenter's presentation, it made its presence known. So although in the past the city considered the train horn an issue, it wasn't until more recently when the council and the city manager with the B Street property negotiations, we kind of elevated it to more of a pressing issue. So one of the priorities, objectives, and goals of the city council is economic development and increase our tax revenues for the city of Marysville. So last year, as staff was working on the train horn issue, Community Development Director Flores gave me the following information that was very pertinent. For a $3 million investment in strengthening their 11 railroad crossings, to the extent that the railroad felt comfortable not to blast the horns, a train horn quiet zone was established in Edmond, Oklahoma. And they saw a $100 million return in their business opportunities. $3 million for $100 million. So I'm sure Director Flores would be happy to discuss more if you wanted to learn more about that. But what we're doing here now is basically to initiate the talks with Union Pacific to establish their train horn quiet zone. We need to convince them, like Edmond, Oklahoma did, to provide a robust train crossing that their engineers will feel comfortable not to blast their horn every time they go through town. So that's pretty much the item before you. It's just some money to pay their consultant to start the negotiation process. Any other questions or discussion?
Gentlemen? Through the chair. So, I remember when you brought this up, and I remember Stephanie brought it up a couple years ago. The Tribedition was $30,000 out of our general fund budget to do this, and I see that we're allowing up to $50,000 for this. Is that for any unknown factors that have not already been presented?
Sure. Great question, Councilor Hudson. So in last year's negotiation, I tried my hardest to cap it at $30,000, but the railroad is like, well, that's our estimate. We may go over it. So in the budget, we asked for $50,000 just for a little bit of overage, but our authority is $50,000. If they bill us for $30,000 or $31,000, we say, well, your estimate was $30,000. What's going on here? We can revisit, but the hard cap is $50,000. We could tell them that we can't go on. That's what council authorized us. We may have to come back to council and say, well, there's some things that they may have not considered, but they gave us an estimate of $30,000.
So they gave us an estimate of $30,000 to do a study by their engineers. Do we have any sort of inside purview, sit at the table, listen to what they bring up, or we just need to pay it and then wait for their evaluation?
No, it's called a diagnostic team, and the city and their engineers, which would represent Union Pacific, also the California Transportation Commission, they would all get together and we'd go out in the field and look at it. For example, a really cheap solution is to close off the crossing. That's like no cost, right? You just got to close off the church. The most expensive solution might be a grade crossing. So there's a variation of between low cost to high cost, and then the team kind of looks at it and do a study to see what the best solution is. But the train company has to say, we feel comfortable with that solution. If you, city, pay for it, we'll refrain from blasting our horn.
So just to paraphrase, the team being purely Union Pacific personnel, nobody from the city?
Oh, yeah, no. We are part of the diagnostic team.
Okay.
Yes.
So we have some local pertinent interjection inside of what is kind of decided at that particular moment and so forth. Because, their study is going to have whatever they created with, other jurisdictions, authorities having jurisdiction and so forth. And I know that I have a business right on the train tracks, and my decibel meter peaks out at 115 every time the train goes by, but that's max for when they blow their horn right there. So it's kind of one of those things where I'm just kind of curious. You or somebody from your department is going to be involved with these meetings.
Yes.
And then you'll be able to share with us, and or through a report, and or meeting updates of what it looks like.
We'll invite you to the diagnostic team.
Maybe I can characterize this, and Vincenzo, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're paying their consultant to participate in an evaluation of the feasibility and the type of safeguards needed for the quiet zone. We will be involved, CTC will be involved, and the railroad's consultant, which is a rep, will be in. There's probably other entities too, but we're really paying them to participate.
Yes, because Union Pacific doesn't want to pay for their consultants to handle our issue.
No, that was the biggest hang-up when you mentioned it, and I know it was the biggest hang-up when, former council member Kinsey brought it up, is it was $30,000, which at that particular time was a little difficult within our budget, but now that we have the surplus, Jennifer, this is coming out of general fund, augmented by Measure C stuff. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
I have a comment. First, you don't get to get a quiet zone without the railroad company on board, no pun intended. And they have to be on board. We have to use their consultant. That's the entry fee. The cost to do this will if indeed we execute quiet zones, will be a big number. This is the entry fee and will enable us to scope out the size of the project, the scope of the project, and then see if we can find some grants. Because this is one of those things where you've got the divided city and the impact on the city, and we have the kind of profile that we may be able to receive grants and actually quiet the trains on at least one and maybe all of those crossings. And what a difference that would make. Particularly in the southeast portion of the downtown area, where the train goes right through residential. And it would open up that property, increase the value of that property and the development profile of that property for the city. So I think it's a very worthy effort in that regard.
I'm discreet if I can, Mayor, is that I've lived next to the train track on one side or the other for the past 30 years, right next to it, within 15 feet of the proximity of the train, in all sections from 14th down all the way to 7th Street. And I'm in favor because the three intersections where they butter the horns are where I have lived for the past 25 years. And I'm game for quieting. Even if they do quiet, there is a game that will still be played at my establishment, whether they blow their horn or not. But I am in favor of this study. Thank you very much for your work. And initially, Stephanie, for putting this forward years ago. So thank you for everything that's being done. Oh, God, thank you.
Sir.
I'm not sure if you can answer this or you can, Jim, or if it's something that would need to be worked out maybe through this, and I'm for looking into this and doing the quiet zone. I don't want to sound I'm not, but the noise that's created, the way that you've presented it, if we want anything changed on it, it's strictly the city's responsibility. The railroad has no responsibility. And I ask that in the sense that I don't go back this far in Marysville, but at one point I believe Marysville had allowed those tracks to go through Marysville. So do they have any responsibility, or will they have any participation?
The short answer is the railroad will not have financial responsibility. The railroads are governed by law that is specific to the railroads, which is very favorable to the railroad. The Federal Rail Administration is the entity that manages that. They are not, the railroads in general are not really fond of the train quiet zones because it could represent more risk to them, more liability. So they typically do not want to spend money on that. The process is usually to do this analysis and then look for federal funding, including funding potentially from the Federal Railroad Administration. The railroads kind of have the upper hand on this.
Okay, thank you.
So, do we have any public comment on this, Madam Clerk?
No speakers for this item, Mayor.
Okay, noting none, public comment is closed. I will read once again the recommendation. Pass a motion to authorize the city manager to execute a reimbursement agreement with Union Pacific Railroad Company, an amount of $30,000 to pay for Union Pacific's consultant for engineering services relating to establishing a train horn quiet zone. What is the will of the council?
Move to approve.
We have a motion.
I'll second.
And seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Noting none. Matter resolved. Thank you, Vincenzo. We now move to a public hearing, and this is there are 2 matters on the public hearing agenda. Each one will be reviewed and acted on individually. Members of the public may request to speak when called upon for comment. If you're here, you can get a speaker's card. If you're online, you can raise your hand and you'll be recognized in order. If you have any documentation you'd like to be distributed, mail it to City Clerk, 526 East Street, Marysville. First matter, ballot language for the November 5th, 2024 election. Recommendation, pass a motion to 1, introduce an appropriately numbered ordinance for first reading, and second, set July 2nd, 2024 for a second reading and consideration for adoption. Third, waive the first and second reading of the ordinance authorizing the changes to Chapter 3.05 of the Marysville City Code. Fourth, adopt an appropriately numbered resolution. And 5, accept and adopt the suggested ballot language suggested within the resolution, with this language to appear on the November 5th, 2024 ballot for constituents to consider the renewal of the transactions and use tax measure. And Mr. Shadd, Jim Shadd, City Manager, you'd like to maybe give a little broader explanation of all that?
Yes. There was already some public comment on Measure C, and perfect timing, thank you. So, as most people know, our Measure C is a 1% or 1 cent per dollar tax measure, sales tax. It supplements the 1% we receive through the state tax of 7.7 or 7.25%, and it represents roughly $3.9 million worth of revenue to the city, which is a third of our general fund revenue at this point. What we are bringing forth to council is basically 3 items related to a proposed renewal of that sales tax, which is due to expire in, you were correct, 2026. The process for doing this is to put it on the ballot, and we intend, the staff proposes to put a ballot measure on for this November's election. The items we brought forth are the resolution, place the item on the ballot, and that resolution contains the second item, which is the actual ballot initiative language. And the third item is proposed changes to the ordinance to support the ballot language should it pass. We've had discussions at a town hall last week. Staff believes this the replacement of Measure C, or the renewal of Measure C, is very important to the city's continued prosperity and its forward momentum, and therefore are recommending to the council to take those actions to place the item on the ballot. And then I'll leave it at that.
Time out. I knew something was afoot when I saw one of our firemen leave the room. Okay. Anyway, the matter now has now been presented, and the public hearing on this matter is now open. Madam Clerk, any input from the public on this?
No public speakers on this item, Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. Public hearing matter is closed. Now, any questions or comments from council? Staff.
So through the chair. So I agree with what staff is being presented here because of the fact when this was put up 8 years ago, it has made a huge difference for the city of Marysville in general. And just the fact that we have been able to augment our fire department, police department with equipment, public works, do roads, and just do extra studies like train quiet zones, things of that sort. And I do believe that if we were to let this expire on the sunset clause that happens in 2026, it'd be exceptionally detrimental. And I would hate to see all the things that we've worked together as a council, other councils and so forth, lose what we've worked for to make this community a better place. So I think that this is the appropriate action to be able to see if we can get this put on the November agenda for consideration, just to continue an existing tax that is within the city and continually support and augment our departments, which are just crucial for the operation of the city of Marysville. So it is not a special measure tax. It is a general fund tax because of the fact it doesn't really matter. It's up to us as a council to decide where to put it. We have diligently put it towards what we said we'd do, which is public safety, fire department, police department, public works, and so forth. And I think we need to continue to do that because I don't want to let people go within the city. Being it's, as Mr. Shadd has shared, 1/3 of our budget. And that's a pretty significant number. And Mary, you're much better with numbers than I am. I'm a simple businessman, not a analyst. But it's kind of one of those things where I would hate to think that we digressed back to where we were 8 years ago. I was a public servant for the city of Marysville 8, 15, 20 years ago, and things were difficult back then. Just to be able to keep 2-0 staffing in the fire department, and we were able to maybe get 3-0 staffing in the fire department back then, and go back to 2-0 staffing, then 3-0 staffing. I know that the more police officers we have in the streets, the more public works we have mowing the lawns, things of that sort. That's all pretty important, and I am super proud of the fact that we have done a lot of roads in this past year and a half. We would not have been able to do any of those roads or studies for quiet zones and so forth, or helping community and businesses out with what we give to Brenda Stranex and the YEDC and so forth. That's just, it's all possible through this 1% tax measure that we are just suggesting we continue. That is all I have. Thank you.
Well, the ballot language is the matter before us. I share your outlook, Councilman Hudson. I'll be out knocking on doors for this matter. It's on the ballot. But again, the matter before us is the specific language. Am I not correct, Mr. City Attorney?
Then I apologize.
Oh, no. Your comments were appropriate.
I support it as written, as it was amended by our city clerk and so forth, and I agree with it.
Any other comments on the language?
To the chair.
Sure.
This November 5th election is going to be a big election in our country. It's a presidential election. There's many items that are probably going to be on this ballot, and many people that will be on this ballot. One of the items that I believe will be on this ballot is the Taxpayer Protection Act, which is an act that the people petitioned to be put on this ballot in 2022, and it brings major transparency to taxes being implemented. As this item's been moving forward over the last couple of months through our evaluation of what Measure C dollars have done and some of the other meetings, et cetera, this has been a very crucial thing to me, though. If the Taxpayer Protection Act were to pass, then it would be retroactive all the way back to 2022. And it calls for there to be transparency in language on ballot measures, which I believe in. And in evaluating this and having input on some of this, I believe that this ballot language is transparent enough to the voter to make an educated decision about whether they want to pay this tax or not, continue to pay this tax or not. And it has language that identifies that these dollars do go to the general fund. It is at the council's discretion, and I think that it's a very wise thing to have in this ballot language, this oversight committee. And this is a very crucial thing to the accountability of government in how it allocates those taxes. So I look at this language and I believe that it is in alignment with the Taxpayer Protection Act, which I fully support, meaning the Taxpayer Protection Act.
To the chair.
Sir.
I just, being on a committee that has been part of this, I just want to make sure that everybody has understood that we brought in attorneys that specialized in this wording to make sure that if the Taxpayer Protection Act is passed alongside of this, that we would be protected from any possibility of having it withdrawn from us. A lot of time was spent on that, and rightly so. But we have gotten this as clear as possible in a legal form that it could be.
Any other comment? I want to join in all comments supporting taxpayer protection. I do understand from counsel, special counsel on this matter, that Taxpayer Protection Act may be in trouble and may not make it to this ballot. Problems, and it's being the Attorney General and some other elements of the state government have issues with it, one of which is the retroactive feature, and there's some other features that may have to be reformulated and put on a later ballot. But it may well, as you suggested, Councilman Belson, make it onto this ballot. And so it's critical that we have wording that comports with that act and in the event it makes it on the ballot. Okay, all that said, what's the will of the council?
To the chair.
Sir.
Before taking this vote, I will say this, that though I believe that the ballot language being proposed here is sufficient to comply with Taxpayer Protection Act, should it pass, I do take a position before you call on a vote that I'll abstain from voting on this item.
Okay. Never had an abstention before. Is that normal course? There we go. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Chair. Move to approve. We have a motion.
Second.
And a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions?
Here.
There we go. Thank you. Matter passes. Okay. The second matter for public hearing is item number 7 on the agenda. It is to update Marysville Municipal Code Chapter 11.04 to clarify required off-site roadway improvements and developments. The recommendation is to pass a motion to introduce an appropriately numbered ordinance for first reading and set July 2nd, 2024 for second reading and consideration for adoption, and waive the first and second reading of the ordinance authorizing changes to Chapter 11.04 of the Marysville Municipal Code. And Vincenzo Carrazzo, Public Works Director, will present. Thank you, sir.
Great, very good. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. Vincenzo Carrazzo, Public Works Director. The item before you is a continuation of the item that was presented to you at the May 7th City Council meeting, discussing off-site paving requirements for development. The council at that time had decided to create an ad hoc committee to revise the language, to revise the ordinance. This included Vice Mayor Badukvoli and Councilor Belza in the committee. So essentially the committee met and came up with 5 revisions. One is to redefine the term pave out to mean paving to the center line of the street. 2 is there's no in lieu fee. 3 is exempt fourplexes and less residential projects. And 4 is no retroactivity clause. And 5 was to create an appeal process for any requirements that the Public Works Director has on developments. So those are reflected in the ordinance revisions before you for introduction, and I'm available for any questions or take part in the discussion.
Okay, upon presentation, then we open a public hearing on the matter. Time for public hearing is now open. Madam Clerk, do we have a speaker?
Not for this item, Mayor.
Thank you. Then time for public hearing on this matter is closed. Any questions or comments from council? Noting none, what is the will of the council?
I make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
And seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Matters passed unanimously, Madam Clerk. Okay, let's move to committee reports and comments. Councilman Belza.
No committee reports, but I will be the first probably of all 5 of us that will mention the events over this weekend with the Marysville Hotel. And probably along with all of us, I want to acknowledge and compliment all of the first responders that showed up there. I was able to be on site for a couple hours, and the coordination and the amount of effort, everybody working together was outstanding. I thought that it was a very well-ran event, Chief, and you handled everything incredibly professional and above board all the way across. So I want to applaud you and your team, your guys, and also coordinating the other departments that showed up on site. Very well done. And you definitely got my 5-star rating for sure. So other than that, I don't believe I have anything else to share. Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Gilchrist.
Great job, Chief Hegstrom, Chief Sachs, Vincenzo Crauso, and your Public Works team. You guys have been working, Public Works and the Marysville Police Department have been out handling the aggressive challenge with the traffic scenario that is choking our downtown business district. And so we really appreciate all of your efforts. You've been working overtime on this, and I'm really looking forward to this coming to a conclusion. But again, outstanding work. Thank goodness nobody was injured or killed, and thank you very much. And I have no committee reports.
Councilman Hudson.
So I too have no committee reports at this particular time. And yes, I would like to add some, without speaking too much, to the fact that yes, we had an incident this weekend, and it was a rather large one. While I was on the fire department for my almost 30 years, we created target hazards when I was with the city of Marysville, and Marysville Hotel was my target hazard that I created an analysis on some almost 20 years ago. And the biggest issue was if it ever got to the roof, and that is exactly what happened. When it got to the roof, there was not a whole lot they could do, but I give kudos to the brothers and sisters of both Red and Blue and Public Works that did everything they can to mitigate the emergency as best as they can. The funny part is that even though the hotel is an icon for the city of Marysville, it has been a point of contention for this council and for many people within the community. And in its not quite 100 years of existence within the city of Marysville, it has been defunct for almost 4 decades, where it has not done much for the city of Marysville. And as a former first responder, there's always this thing that we always say, risk versus gain. And what is the risk versus what you're going to gain with what you guys did, both law enforcement and fire, in trying to mitigate that emergency? And I did not want to be that old guy in the ear of the fire chief, so I stayed home and I let you do your task. And from what I could tell, with where I figured it was going to go, it went pretty much textbook for the target hazard that we did 20 years ago. And the saving grace is nobody got hurt. Though a decision has not actually been made at this particular juncture to the structural stability of that particular building, that's going to happen between an engineer and the building owner and the building owner's insurance company, not necessarily with us in the city of Marysville. I look forward to hearing what the report is. I don't know what the report's going to be. I can speculate, but I will not. All I want to say is that since the incident some 3 days ago, everybody's pulled together, Public Works, MPD, and so forth, to do traffic control around this town. Has been extensive, and it's kind of interesting. And I have nonetheless had this conversation at least 15 times today in my establishment with people that come and ask me what's going on, and I give the same report. We don't know. It's not our property. It's not our business. But we have made decisions to protect people that are in the city, in the past of the city, and it's created quite a conundrum. So I hope that we can work with the building owner and the insurance company in a timely manner to help mitigate this conundrum. Besides that, well done, brothers and sisters. Well done. Thank you.
Mr. Vice Mayor.
I don't want to just repeat what everybody said, but great job, all of you. A really great job. Jim, I know you were exhausted by the end of the day, so thank you to you and anybody else that was, you guys, everybody that was involved. I really also want to thank Robert Suma. The inexact and speculative information that has come out on social media is just ridiculously unreal. And the things I've seen and heard and been called and all along, this is absolutely ridiculous, and I feel for anybody that's been attacked. But everyone has done a great job. I've seen where Robert has done as good a job as anybody could try to do to minimize the speculation. And it's a tough situation. These are the times when you think, why do I take this job for $300 a month? But it really is frustrating and irritating when you see that. But that all being said, great job from everybody that was involved. On a good note, what I'd like to say is one of the things when I first got on this council that we tried to do was get this rec development committee going, get the ball field to the state that it's at, and we've been very fortunate with the help we've had there. But I'm going to throw a little out there. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., the American Legion State Champion Stripers will be playing there against the Petaluma runner-ups for the state champion. And we're trying to bring all the different American Legion teams in to eventually, hopefully maybe next year, but to show off the field. We've already been told by every one of them that's been there that this is by far the nicest field that they've seen or played on. So we're hoping to bring a few of the different teams in, let them see it, and really shoot to get the championship games here next year, or if not that, hopefully the following year. So if anybody wants to come out and see really good baseball, 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, they'll be playing.
My turn. I want to go into full voice on this one. Measure C has enabled a fire department with appropriate staffing for the challenge. Now, I showed up Sunday morning, it's about 7:30. Chief Hegstrom had come back so he could handle an interview with KCRA, and he hadn't slept yet. And he told me about the first call for an incident was at 9:30 on Saturday night. First people there are going to be the Marysville Fire Department. Now, what if people were in that building? What if people were in that building and we didn't have the staff to appropriately deal with it? That is what public safety, whether it be fire or police, are all about. Having the team there to save and protect lives. And this is what Measure C is about. Having a, it's one thing to have fire trucks, but if you don't have the people, it's the people that make things happen. And thank God we had them. Thank goodness there was nobody in the building. But in those incidents, when the incident comes, we will have the people, and lives will be protected. The chance of survival is going to be higher. That's a big deal, and that's a large part of what Measure C is about. Other aspects of public safety, certainly, on Measure C. I was privileged to be part of a group. This is not an official duty, but it's worth speaking about. That will be promoting Measure C. And Vice Mayor was there, I think was there, and others. And City Manager was in the meeting. It was held at Frank M. Booth Company, and Frank M. Booth Company is supporting this. Engstrom, the developer of the new hotel, is supporting this financially. I'm supporting it personally financially. It's really important for the city. This city has momentum, absolutely has momentum, and you don't maintain momentum without public safety, period. I apologize, that was too much of a speech, I think, but I was feeling it. Madam Clerk, do we have any council correspondence?
Not for this meeting, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager.
I have a few event announcements to make, but I too wanted to weigh in on the fire at Marysville, so I apologize. Got some firefighters in the audience here. When I arrived on scene, we had firefighters there. I distinctly remember bumping into Andrew pretty quickly, and he was flying a drone to assist with some surveillance of the fire and more importantly, protecting or looking for hot spots to protect other buildings. And I'm going to make the caveat right out of the gate that I am not a firefighter, so I'm not one to make this judgment, but I'll lay it out the way I saw it and gleaned information. When the firefighters got there, my understanding is they aggressively attacked the fire. They went in and attempted to clear the building, and with reasonable assurance had ensured that nobody was in the building itself. They continued to fight the fire. point, the chief arrived, took control of the incident. I'm not a firefighter, so I don't tell the chief how to fight fires. I don't tell our firefighters how to fight fires. They're the expertise. But what I saw, it was textbook firefighting. Sometimes you just can't save the building. So I wanted to thank the chief and his crew personally for the job they did on a very late night, early morning. I also, I wanted to acknowledge teamwork too. Our police department had a significant number of staff out there securing the periphery of the scene and doing traffic control. Our public works folks were out there and immediately got barriers up. We had, I hope I don't miss any, Linda, Wheatland, Yuba City, Olivehurst, and CAL FIRE with mutual aid. Cal OES was on site. The Cal Water folks were on site, making sure that the water supply was adequate to provide the needed water for the fire crews. And to me, it happened like clockwork. It was a travesty. Property beyond the building. So thank you guys for doing that. List of get this to pull up. I should make him do it, but I'll pull it up here eventually here. Tell us where we need of the building. And just to mention where we're at with the building, so the chief gets to fight the fires physically with his staff. I get to fight the fires afterwards with all of the issues. So obviously it's a regional issue that the hotel has caused. We do not know if the building is structurally sound yet. We're hoping to know more information from a structural engineer tomorrow, and they don't know what that decision will be, but it will tell us where we need to go next stepwise. Traffic has been a nightmare. We've been working closely, though, with Caltrans, and working through the traffic issues. I know our police department has expended significant resources doing traffic control, particularly in peak hours. And I have been working with the property owner constantly and feeding that information to the stakeholders as we get it to try and minimize the impact to the community and the region, as well as come up with a solution primarily to get the highway back open, because that is the major problem. And I will continue to keep council and staff and our friends at Caltrans apprised of where we're at with that. So that is all I have.
Once you and your team, Chief Hegstrom, once you and your team get rested up, I think it would be appropriate if we had a presentation, and not because we want to second guess. I think it's important to memorialize the scope of the effort, and I'm certain you've had a chance to give your story to media people, but it would be wonderful if the city could hear from you and your people, and you and your people could be recognized at a formal council meeting. And I'm going to suggest that to the city managers. We put together the agenda for the next regular meeting. And it would not just be you, but also Public Works and Police Department, because it involves all aspects. And it's a testament to when the going gets tough, the tough get going. Sir.
I believe our police chief has a few words.
Oh, sir.
Just real quick, I don't want to keep you guys too late, so I'll make it short and sweet, Bruce. And not to reiterate what everybody else has said, but I was there early on the incident Saturday night, and what I witnessed was an exceptional leader in Chief Hegstrom. So I learned from him that evening as well. One of those things where just a leadership, the coordination. I mean, talk about a complex incident, multifaceted. When I showed up, ladder trucks were going up, windows were blown out next to them. They're going up through the smoke up to the roof. I mean, it was chaotic. You know, there was over probably 200 to 300 onlookers that were in the streets, gathering in the streets. We were trying to get everybody back, and his coordination with 6 to 7 different fire agencies. And I had the opportunity to stand back a little bit, take a break and watch, and just watch the dynamics of how he ran the incident, and also using his battalion chief, Bobby Gardner, and some of the other area chiefs. And then as I started walking up to him, the Cal Fire chief came up and congratulated him and told him what a, excuse my language, kick-ass job he did. And so, I mean, it made me proud to be there, to be a part of it, not only because I'm a lifer here at Marysville, but on the other side of it, to be a part of it, to be standing next to him with that teamwork, and to be able to see that from the outside, and not there to evaluate it, but just there to witness it. So my hat's off to their entire crew. They worked their butts off all night, and, you know, I was proud to stand there with them, to be a part of, and I'm glad he's a part of our team. So just wanted to make sure I gave him that shout out, because truly meant a lot to all of us.
And again, Chief Hegstrom, if you have the time, hopefully, to gather the story and so we can properly hear what a great effort it was and the details. I think it's important to review these things so that the people in this, I know the city appreciates it, but it appreciates the depth of everything, and that goes for the police department and Public Works also. So I don't want to put too much on your plate, but I think it would be worthwhile for the department and the city.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, absolutely. I think it is important to tell the story of this fire. I mean, as I appreciate the kind words from everybody on the council and Mr. Shad and of course Chief Sachs. I appreciate all the work that was put in that night. Again, as you guys heard, the work was really put in by all the fire companies that arrived that night, and the amount of effort they put in to suppress a very complex, very historic building that comes with its challenges by itself. And I do think that story needs to be captured and memorialized so we can learn from that event and we can continue to grow in our profession, because these fires happen. Unfortunately, this is a one-time event that we can learn a lot from, and really could tell the story, and it could help others in the future with these type of efforts. So again, I'll be more than happy to share that, and I'll get that together.
Sure.
I,
Thank you.
I was reminded of one more fire-related thing, an announcement of sorts. So we're moving into the 4th of July and fireworks show. One of the things that our fire department also helps with is reducing fuel load, particularly around the area where we have the fireworks. They've been working diligently with our public works folks to knock down all the weeds and vegetation for that. That's part of their role as well, the prevention side of things. And so I believe we may be doing some burning in conjunction with Yuba City. What date? Do we know yet?
If the weather is compliant, hopefully on Monday.
Okay, great. So if you see smoke in those areas, that's what that would likely be.
Okay, with all that said, the next regular meeting of the City Council, and they're more likely than not will be a special meeting, perhaps as early as this week on other matters, will be Tuesday, July 2nd at 6 p.m. We're now adjourned.
Yuba-Sutter.Live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com.
Hi, I'm Neil Goforth of Comfort Keepers of Yuba, Sutter, and Nevada counties. Caring for elders or even yourself has challenges. Comfort Keepers of Yuba, Sutter, and Nevada counties can help you address today's issues and plan for tomorrow with in-home and specialized care for you or your family members. Call us at 530-749-8800. Comfort Keepers of Yuba, Sutter, and Nevada counties.
Yuba-Sutter.Live local government